Welcome everyone to a new episode of We're Not Afraid of the Dark, the podcast where usually myself and my brother Ben host it, but we're going to pass the torches to our girlfriends to take over this episode. This is the tale of the Dollmaker. Please welcome my girlfriend Kayla and Ben's fiance Ashley.
Hi, I'm Kayla.
I am Ashley.
This is the tale of the Dollmaker. The scene starts out with the Midnight Society around a campfire, as usual.
Every time.
Tonight, Betty Ann is telling the story. She pulls a doll out of her bag. And what's his name was going to go to sleep. What was his name?
I don't remember.
Oh,
the kid in the brown hat.
He said, siesta time. Wake me up when it gets good.
Which is what I made a note of. I thought it was cute that he reacted negatively to the fact that she was going to tell a story about a doll when, let's be honest, most guys are creeped out by dolls and porcelain and dolls and everything like that. So I would think that would be kind of creepy for him to begin with.
Which is probably why we're telling the story tonight, right?
Uh-huh.
It's because girls love dolls. That's why.
Just be glad mine are still packed up in the attic, baby.
All right, Ben, but you gotta admit, that burnt fucking baby doll that our granny had in like her cupboard in the dining room was creepy as shit. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, you're right. Ashley has a ton of the collectible Barbies. They're still in the boxes.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have any like porcelain dolls or whatever.
I do have porcelain dolls, and I have a few of the Barbies. They are in the attic.
Good.
They're put away. I read a book a while back. It was The Good Girl's Guide to Bad Girl Sex, and they said anything like that you need to put away and out of your line of sight because it'll zap your, whatever grown-up sexuality. So they're in the attic.
Softy.
Funny story. One of my friends yesterday at work asked me, she said, does your room still look like a little girl's room? And I said, no. Does yours? She said, yeah.
Kayla, you have fucking 10 stuffed animals on your bed.
Okay, no, but
like stuffed animals are acceptable.
Baby, we don't have any stuffed animals on our bed.
To be fair.
Did I when you came to see me at my house?
They usually ended up on the floor.
One Care Bear.
Oh, well, that doesn't count.
To be fair.
Another funny story. Me and Kayla went to an antique store a few months ago, and somebody, a vendor in the antique store, had like this 19th century porcelain doll in there for $800, just up in some fucking cardboard box.
That's crazy.
Knocked over.
No, none of that.
Probably wanted.
Okay, so.
Oh my God.
Back to.
We got. Don't look at it. We got 4 left out of 24. We got 4 Twisted Teas left out of 24.
It's talent, not a problem.
Hey, Twisted Tweet, get off your fucking ass and support us because holy shit, we just gave you guys.
We support you.
Yeah, we gave you guys $20 today.
Okay, so as we start,
as soon as she started the story, it started out with little Melissa, her aunt and uncle having her for the weekend. And they took her back to their house, and next door is the Hendersons' house. And they tell her that the Hendersons moved away, and the little girl was very upset by what Aunt Sally and Uncle Pete told her.
Right. And I thought it was a little funny because when they were talking to her to begin with, they were kind of sketchy. Like, they didn't want to tell her what was going on, but at the time you could tell that they knew. So I'm like, okay, if this little girl was best friends with the little girl next door and this happened, like, what did they bring their niece into? Like, they had to have known there was going to be some sort of issue with that.
Right.
And it didn't seem to be an issue to them.
Melissa started seeing the curtains move in the Hendersons' house, so she decided to enter.
Naturally.
She's walking around the house and goes into a room. And she's like moving around the jackets and everything in the closet. And then when she moves all the jackets around, she sees that it actually goes up these little stairs
to an attic.
And she sees a dollhouse that's identical to the house that they're in. And then she like fell over because she like set off a mousetrap.
Yeah, with the curtains hanging and everything. And I thought that was a little weird because it seemed like it was behind the curtain and had maybe been there for a while, but there had been no mice apparently because the bait was still readily available.
Right.
I did notice that it seemed like as compared to other characters in the series, she seemed like a pretty well-mannered, sweet, respectful kind of girl. Like, I know Beth
agree.
in the one was kind of bitchy and mean, and I thought that she was a pretty realistic version of.
She sees another little door, and right as she was seeing the door, the aunt comes and found Melissa. She makes her leave, and the aunt makes Melissa promise not to ever go back there.
Another note that I wrote in mine was that when they went back to the house, it seemed a little funny that, like, she was sitting on the couch right there, and they showed them, like, literally right around the corner. You could see her, you could see them, and they're discussing, like, oh, she can't ever know, da 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 da. But she was literally right there. That seemed like something you might have tried to take away from where she was at if you weren't trying to have her listening in.
Right, exactly. So then is where the aunt confessed what happened. She said that last winter Susan had disappeared, and the aunt was very upset, but it seemed like there was still something they were leaving out.
Right. And I did notice that after she, like, stopped her in the yard and she's telling her, like, promise me you'll never go back, and kind of gave her a little idea about what had happened after they sat down on the porch. The aunt actually was some of the better acting that I had seen in the series, as far as being so scripted and blank. She sat down, she kind of gave her a good idea of what had happened as best she could, kind of whitewashed it, I guess. But I did notice that afterwards, after the girl, like, turned around and stuck out in a little while in the middle of the night, like, she took those keys inside and she didn't hide them. She didn't put them out of the way. She kind of left them for Melissa to find. I don't know. I might have assumed she was going to do something like that if I had been the aunt.
I made a note of that. She wakes up to a noise and she goes outside and she stole the keys from the aunt and wrote, I'm like, how old is this girl? Like, she's a badass. Like, this girl's cool.
She knew exactly where she was going, exactly what she was doing. Yes, I promise you I'll never do it. And then headed right out the door.
Right. Why wouldn't you? When she went into the dollhouse the second time, she opened the door and she saw Susan, who did look like a doll.
Or a baby drag queen. If I'm being honest, I kind of thought it looked a little... if you look right here, Susan, doll, or baby drag queen. Drag shows. I don't know a lot. I haven't seen a lot in person. I know there's the RuPaul's Drag Race on... Which channel is it?
Talk to each other, not me.
I love drag shows.
Now, I like the idea, and I love the over-the-top and the, like, super girly, and the idea of it, and the glitz and the glamour. And I'm sure that's lots of fun. But when I looked at that little girl, you remember those Bratz dolls?
That's when I was, like, in my prime.
I hated them.
Oh, my God. They were, like, sexy dolls.
See, that was my problem. I grew up with Barbies, and it's like, even when I was young, everybody was crying about how Barbies were too sexualized, and there were no modest this and that. But then as I got older, like, these Bratz dolls came into play, and to me, they looked like baby hookers. And so I'm like, okay, so what exactly are we teaching? Or, like, they were complaining about the dolls I was playing with, and now I'm looking at these, and they're looking a little extreme to me.
Chloe was my favorite.
I don't know who that is.
She was the one that was all blonde.
But yeah, so I'm like, they kind of remind me of baby hookers.
No, I love Bratz. But I was more Barbies.
I loved Barbies.
Bratz
I've got
came out when I was in 4th grade, and I played them with 4th and 5th. Then I was in 6th grade. My parents still kept fucking me, buying me fucking Bratz dolls, and I'm like, no, I want fucking
I want to collect them.
I want fucking skateboards and and like boy stuff.
You were going through your change.
I guess she kind of did look like a little baby drag queen. Like,
she did. It was really, there was a very artificial look about her, which I guess makes sense if you were going for, a girl that had been turning into a doll. But I don't know. It just seemed a little much, maybe. I don't know.
Well, she saw Susan walking around in there, and she's like, Melissa.
Right. And brings her right in there with her, get her stuck.
And her uncle, happened to walk up there, and she's like about to be like leg in, walking in. Her uncle pulls her out, and he goes in and boards up the door.
Yeah, and shows her that it's just the swing down there. Like, it's perfectly normal. It's everything. Everything she had previously seen was gone at that point. He made a pretty good point for not going back up there, but clearly she did. She stole the keys. She went back up. And
little badass.
Right. I like anybody that don't listen to nobody. But yeah, she opens it back up and it's kind of the dollhouse again. She even like tested it with her foot. If you saw, she like stepped a couple times to see if it was going to be, solid footing.
She had yarn to find her way back.
Yeah, with the twine. She thought she
was... Smart girl.
Yeah. And gets back to it and there's nothing there. Kudos to her, though, for being able to go back and like, okay, let's look in the dollhouse through the door. I thought that was pretty good of her. What's that say for Susan that she didn't think about it, though?
What was your biggest what the fuck moment?
Oh, God. I kind of wondered at the end when, after Betty Ann had been telling this story and she left the doll behind of the other boy with the brown hat, I kind of wondered if she had dolls of all her friends.
Huh. I think she said, like, it'll be, like, in another story or something like that at the end. What was it?
I'm not sure, but I never remember hearing anything about it after that. And I was just like, so does she make that special knowing he would be the cynical one, or does she just have one of everybody?
No, mine, in my notes, it was, what the fuck? Susan pops off her fucking hand.
Yeah, and then puts it in her pocket.
Like this porcelain hand that popped off.
Yes. She's like, I can't. And then she's like, oh, it's cool. Come up here. I'll just put this in your pocket. I got this. Let's go through this hole. I don't know in that position if I would have felt comfortable enough stepping out into that. Like, you could see she felt for it again, but she could feel it, but she couldn't see it.
Yeah, when they were jumping out, like, to the so-called, like, outside, I was so fucking afraid Susan was just going to break into a million pieces. Fall.
Well, see, I was thinking the one girl, Melissa, was going to, like, just hit the floor and be floor ground. And, whatever, had jumped out a window in desperation over her friend. But, no, she found her.
Her aunt and uncle thought that she had, like, what had happened to her had, what happened to Susan.
Right.
But they were, like, still, like, in the house, wondering where she was, like, worried, thinking the same thing happened. But, like, where's the police?
No calls.
Where's any authorities?
No checking into...
Right. What the fuck?
I am not sure.
Call her parents.
It seemed they were pretty aware of the likelihood that something similar had happened to her. But at the same time, they just seemed to be kind of hanging out and waiting. I don't know. They didn't do a good job as far as like the amount of time that had passed. Like, we don't know how long they were waiting. It doesn't seem like it was too long because I remember the uncle saying something about her probably being out for a walk or something. So probably not too incredibly long. However, if my neighbor girl had disappeared previously and then my niece kind of disappeared, I don't want to say I'd have waited too long to check into it. Yes, darling.
Okay, so I'm gonna chime in just for a second. Now, when she did the twine, do you know where that like originated from? Like the twine to like find your way through things?
I mean, I would have figured they thought the Hansel and Gretel didn't do so good with the crumbs.
It's a bit further than that, my love.
Okay.
It's Greek mythology, which is one of my favorite topics, and it is from Theseus. And Theseus fought the Minotaur. And when he went to a certain place, he was thrown into the labyrinth, which a guy named Daedalus had made. And it's so, like, it confuses you so much that he fell in love with the king's daughter, who it was King Minos, Minotaur. We see the connection here. Bulls. His wife ended up falling in love with a bull because some god made her fall in love with him and all this other shit. Anyway, he, to find his way, back out of the labyrinth, he had tied twine to the door where he entered through, and that's what, when you were watching and I was watching with you, that's what I thought of, was like, oh, Greek mythology, it's Theseus and like his way of doing things. But when she went to the wall and it was already like closed back up, I was thinking, where the fuck's the string at?
I wondered at that point, was she pulling it loose and realized something was wrong, or did it still feel like it was attached
stuck in
to the
wall?
doorknob?
Yeah. So they really didn't say anything else about it. She just kind of dropped it and was like, what the fuck?
Okay,
and,
this sucks. Let me find another way.
Yeah. And then, oh, the house is the family's house.
It's the same.
She didn't need it any fucking way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when we were watching, that's what I was thinking of, Greek mythology. Who the fuck knew? But you ladies are doing great.
Thank you, dear.
I learned something.
I did. I do love Greek mythology, but I can't pull it out on command like that.
I'm a learner.
All right. So what's next on your notes?
That Susan survived. Melissa brought Susan back from, I guess, another world.
Kind of like another, like
a
maybe
doll
parallel
world.
dimension type thing. That was good. I did like how the uncle decided to finally burn the dollhouse, because before that, she had been telling Susan was the one that got disappeared.
Yeah.
She had been telling Melissa that, they left so many expensive things in that house, so much importance, we can't mess it up.
Aunt Sally.
Yes. So at the end, they realized, like, okay, this is the issue. Burn that shit.
Right.
But I kind of felt like it would have been a little more finished if they had shown the reunion of, say, Susan and her parents. Because this girl's been missing for how long? They were devastated. They had to leave the house. They had to, whatever. Like, or maybe even the phone call of her telling them, like, hey, you're not going to believe this, but I got Susan right here. I felt like they left that a little unfinished in that aspect. But overall, I thought it was a really good episode.
This should be on Beyond Belief.
Shameless plug.
Did they explain what was causing her to change it to a doll?
They did not. At
Okay.
any point other than, I guess, that realm kind of sucked them into.
Because I last watched this episode like last year, and it's actually one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. It was a good episode.
Yeah, the acting is good. The only thing I had a great with, yes, is the makeup for the doll.
That was a little rough. And then when Melissa got in there, they showed the point where she went back to the wall where the twine was supposed to have been connected. And when she put her hands on the wall, you could see that she had a little bit of white on the back of each like wrist / like hand. So I guess it was taking her over.
Right.
But that was about the extent of that. They didn't really explain a whole lot as far as...
Because one vivid memory I had from this episode was the scene where her hand comes off and she has to put like a pocket or something.
Yeah. And say,
my favorite part.
Susan's hand falls off. Melissa picks it up, puts it in her pocket. Like, hey, it's no big deal. We got this. Come on. We're getting out.
Like she's carrying her, kind of like walking with her. And she like puts her in like the slanted room corner and just like keeps
just
her there.
here and I'll take care of the rest.
Yeah. As soon as you were watching it, Ashley, I like when I saw it and I saw her, I was like, her fucking hand's gonna fall off.
Of course. She like made a point to show her
to
this
put it in
ain't
that
right.
big old pocket. And I remember it vividly. I'm like, her fucking hands are glass, But when it fell on the ground, I was
Porcelain,
like,
darling.
that should have broke, but I'm glad it didn't. Because what if when she goes back to normal, where she's gonna be fucking missing a hand?
Right?
Like
Seriously.
Little bits and pieces missing. No, but overall, I felt like they did a good job that episode. I feel like that is something that could actually instill some fear or question or disbelief in, like a younger kid.
beyond belief.
Beyond belief.
Oh shit! Oh, plug.
Shameless
Beyond
tag.
Belief K&A TV Day. Motherfucking, We're Not Afraid of the Dark. It's on there. Check it out.
But I felt like they did a good job at kind of blending the lines. There might have been a couple things here and there that I maybe they could have gone over better, but that's me watching it in my 30s versus me watching it when I was 10.
So actually, you do remember this episode from back in the day, right?
I do remember this episode.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you watched this with Ben, did you also watch it with your 11-year-old son, Christopher?
I did not.
Okay. Has he seen any of these episodes?
Not that I can recall.
All right. I want to have him on one of these episodes from season 3.
You tell me which one, I'll make him watch it.
Okay. Well, I just had curiosity because we brought this up multiple times. I think it's very, very important for this podcast and just general things. It's how the show back in the 90s differs from things that may scare kids now. And just as a thing, I Googled kids' horror shows. Guess what came up as number 1?
I'm not sure. He does like Goosebumps.
It was Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Okay, that's awesome.
The second was Erie, Indiana, and the third is Stranger Things.
And I'm wrong. He has watched a couple. When we would be watching them in the living room, he has watched a couple with us.
Okay.
Well, Adam, you give us an episode that you want him to watch, and we will literally watch this shit in the dark.
We'll watch him.
I have it going for you then. The Crimson Clown episode.
Oh,
okay.
Shit. You ain't fucking around.
All right.
How about, or the Dead Man's Float would be bad too.
Yeah, you got a while to wait for that one, but that's a very good episode.
But why was it called The Tale of the Dollmaker? Where's the Dollmaker?
Unless
the
they're
Dollmaker?
referring to the dollhouse, I don't know. I feel like
I
that
would call
have
it the
been more
Tale
appropriately
of the
titled.
Dollhouse.
Yes.
And we're going to call it The Tale of the Baby Drag Queen.
Yes,
Nice.
I like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, the special title. By the way, the Crimson Clown episode is number 12 in this season.
Yes.
Yes, next time we record, we're going to have Christopher come in here.
All right. Let me know. I'll make him watch it.
I kind of wanted to have a video camera just going as you watch it, just to see the look on his face when he sees this big fucking clown appear.
They're all jaded now. Nothing scares them.
I'll tell you what. No matter what happens, his ass ain't sleeping in the bed with us.
It's okay. He just grabs me, darling.
That kid sleepwalks sometimes. Well, he hasn't sleptwalked since
we put him in the loft bed.
Since we put him in the loft bed, because apparently he hits his head on the beam and doesn't come out.
Yep.
But that Crimson Clown is probably going to fuck with him a little bit.
He'll be all right. I got faith in my boy.
Okay.
He's a little me.
We'll see. If he ends up coming, this will
I'll
be
pay you $10.
It will be in a podcast. Well, baby, I
We
mean,
could shake
my
on
money's
it
your
if it
money.
makes
Your
you-
money's my money. So
That's true.
$10 doesn't matter to us.
Anything else on your notes, Kayla?
That looks about right.
Then I guess that's that for that.
You can find Kayla and Adam's personal podcast, K&A TV Day, at KNATVDay@gmail.com, on Instagram, K&A TV Day, Facebook, K&A TV Day, or in the podcast, K&A TV Day.
I'm noticing a reoccurring trend here.
K&A TV Day. Same thing for everything. No apostrophes needed.
We're not afraid of the dark. Have a good night.